As we saw in the introductory video, the Preparedness for Effective Response, or PER approach, describes a continuous and flexible process to strengthen national society's preparedness and response mechanism. Today, we will look at this mechanism in more depth. It consists of 5 areas divided into 37 components, each of which describes global standards applicable to various hazards, contexts, and sectors. These standards are meant to provide guidance for national societies on how to deal with emerging threats and effectively deliver services throughout the disaster risk management continuum. In this video, we will take a look at the operations support area, which include safety and security management, operations monitoring, evaluation, reporting and learning, finance and administration policy and emergency procedures, information and communication technology, or ICT, logistics, procurement and supply chain, staff and volunteer management, communication in emergencies, and resource mobilization. Safety and security management. National societies operate in environments which can be extremely dangerous. Humanitarian response can put the lives and well-being of responders at risk. To understand and minimize this risk, national societies should have systems and procedures in place to ensure the safety and security of its staff and volunteers. An accurate context and risk analysis should be the basis for understanding the safety and security threats a national society may face. Policies, systems, and a dedicated function are important pieces of safety and security management to help ensure a duty of care, monitor risk, and foster a culture of security. Trainings such as Stay Safe and Safer Access can help responders build situational awareness, understand minimum security requirements, and develop ways to build trust and gain access when on mission. Before deployment, responders need to be provided with updated context and risk information. While on mission, responders should follow security protocols and have ways to report on incidents and potential risks. If safety and security measures are not in place, it can seriously jeopardize the well-being of responders, operational objectives, or the reputation of the organization. Therefore, it is critical to ensure that ongoing safety and security risk assessments are conducted and briefings and situation reports are provided to responders to keep them safe. Protocols may need to be adapted to account for movement restrictions with increased security measures and report back to branch and headquarters. Now, it's your turn. Do you have mechanisms in place to communicate risks? Do you have safety and security protocols in place to manage incidents? Are personnel regularly trained in safety and security measures? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Operational planning, monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and learning. The quality of emergency response depends on how well a national society can manage an operation. Effective operational management relies on sound planning based on a good analysis, having systems to monitor implementation and resolve problems as they arise, evaluating whether an operation is meeting its targets and objectives, and reporting on what was accomplished and what lessons can be learned. An emergency plan of action, or EPOA, is the key management tool for operation managers. It should reflect the current operational needs as well as define the actions and resources required to meet its objectives. The EPOA is the basis for resource mobilization, typically through drafts or emergency appeals, and should be revised as operations evolve. Work done before an emergency on contingency, response, and recovery planning will save national societies time when they develop an EPOA. These pre-developed plans can provide generic operational objective statements, actions, and indicators to measure success that would provide a basis on which to develop or refine the emergency plan of action. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation of operations are critical to be able to identify and resolve problems during implementation and generally understand if there are more significant issues within a national society's preparedness and response mechanism. Learnings through evaluations or after-action reviews, which are standard practice after a draft-funded operation, for example, can help identify successes but also challenges that may need to be addressed in preparedness plans. Finally, timely reporting on operations is essential to describe actions taken as well as for accountability purposes. Alignment with movement systems such as the IFRC Go platform can support movement-wide reporting and can ease this demand on national societies. Now, it's your turn. How are you currently tracking operational challenges and lessons? What new processes can be put in place to enhance operational learning in real time? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Finance and administrative policies and emergency procedures. Finance and administrative functions during emergencies are essential to ensure immediate access to life-saving financial resources. This requires that national societies have expedited and transparent approval processes in place in times of emergency that facilitates the immediate access to funds. Additionally, systems for accountability and oversight are important to avoid acts of fraud and corruption and mitigate reputational risks to the national society and the wider movement. Personnel should be trained on finance and admin emergency procedures, as well as accounting systems to track and report on funds, expenses, and in-kind resources. In addition, the operations manager of a response should also be knowledgeable of emergency finance procedures, financial reporting, and the conditions for its use. It is important there is alignment with existing standard operating procedures, which comply with the national regulations as well as IFRC practices when applicable. Some disasters caused by earthquakes, hurricanes, or pandemics may pose serious challenges to financial management functions within a national society. When infrastructure is damaged or social distancing is required, backup systems or virtual environments need to be established to ensure that financial resources can still be accessed and accounted for. Now, it's your turn. Are there expedited emergency finance procedures in place? What systems exist to analyze expenditures and report on fund usage? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Information and communication technology. To do its work effectively, a national society should be equipped with the appropriate technologies needed for preparedness and response actions. This includes ensuring that key staff and volunteers are equipped with functioning laptops, mobile phones, SIM cards, high and very high frequency radios, and even satellite phones where appropriate. Vehicles also should be equipped with reliable means of communication with access to designated radio frequencies. Through trainings, responders should develop the working knowledge for how and when to use these technologies. Technical issues are inevitable during an emergency. To maintain continuity of operation, a dedicated function within national societies should be able to maintain hardware, support technical issues, as well as provide equipment such as portable generators and remote internet connectivity. During an epidemic, there may be an increased need to work remotely across the national society. This will require appropriate technologies and capacities for how to use them. Epidemics may also require ICT support for carrying out community-based surveillance, setting up two-way communication channels with affected populations, or even tracking rumors about an outbreak. Now, it's your turn. Are staff and vehicles equipped with functioning means of communications? Is this sufficient if movement restrictions are put in place? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Logistics, procurement, and supply chain. Robust logistics systems in emergencies should be able to get and deliver life-saving supplies, equipment, and material to the right places at the right time. To do this effectively, it requires that national societies have a dedicated logistics management function closely connected with other departments that coordinates and provides oversight on supply chain, procurement, fleet and transportation, and warehouse and stock management. The logistics management function is responsible for establishing and applying emergency procedures, conducting an analysis to inform pre-positioning of real relief items, ensuring relief items meet humanitarian standards, and considers ways to reduce its environmental impact. It is important that national societies are familiar with IFRC logistics services to coordinate response actions when needed. Supply chain management helps to ensure that services and products are procured and distributed in the right quantities to the right location at the right time. Procurement procedures for emergencies help to ensure that processes are expedited, transparent, and comply with appropriate standards. A system should also be in place to track the quality of suppliers and their compliance with the appropriate code of conduct. Fleet and transportation management systems are used to appropriately manage resources like vehicles, boats, including rentals, and ensuring they are safe and ready to use. And finally, warehouse and stock management systems are used to ensure national societies have the ability to receive, store, access, and dispatch supplies and response equipment. It is advisable that stocks are sufficient to cover the immediate needs of response plans. Now, it's your turn. Are relief items strategically pre-positioned in high-risk areas? Are there procedures for accepting, rejecting, storing, and disposing of in-kind donations, including medical donations? Are personnel able to manage overall logistics in the event of lockdowns and disrupted procurement and supply chains? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Staff and volunteer management. Staff and volunteers are at the heart of a national society's humanitarian response. Ensuring the right individuals are engaged requires effective systems to recruit, train, deploy, manage, and retain personnel during times of emergency. National societies need to consider how to revise or adapt procedures and systems to recruit staff and volunteers in times of emergency. For instance, during a disaster, national societies may witness an increase in spontaneous volunteers who want to help their community. Having expedited onboarding processes can help. Quality and accountability standards and signing of the code of conduct are essential parts of this. Staff and volunteers should have the appropriate competencies that are required to do their job during an emergency. Trainings can help support development of technical skills, in addition to support responders develop strategies to maintain physical and mental well-being during and after an emergency. To manage deployments, an up-to-date database or roster of responders should be in place. It should include contact information and competencies of responders that will allow operation managers to quickly assess if personnel match operational needs. It is critical that in preparation for deployment, responders are briefed and have a clear terms of reference which outlines mission objectives, their roles and responsibilities, lines of communication, context-related information, such as safety and security risks, as well as how their performance will be measured. Responders need proper identification, visibility, and protective items, insurance, and necessary equipment. Humanitarian operations are complex, and staff and volunteers are exposed to difficult situations. Psychosocial and mental health supports may need to be provided as well. It is important that national societies have in place ways to recognize and motivate responders appropriately. National societies should also have a policy to cover responder expenses incurred during emergencies. Now, it's your turn. Are procedures in place to activate, deploy, and manage emergency response teams? Is your database of responders up to date and comprehensive? What onboarding procedures are in place for volunteers before they go to the field? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Communication in emergencies. Establishing clear lines of communication with both the public and media is essential to ensure timely and accurate information is provided before, during, and after a disaster or crisis. This requires having designated and trained communications focal point and a spokesperson to represent the National Society to update the public on emergency situations. When needed, it is important that national societies are able to draw attention to unmet needs and the rights of affected people. Social media often can be a tool for this, but it is important to ensure that staff and volunteers communicate in a unified way. Developing guidelines for communication, best practices, can help in this regard. The National Society should have capacities to track negative media and ways to manage misunderstandings and problems. Finally, it is important that communications templates are prepared ahead of time and that when necessary, there is coordinated joint messaging together with the IFRC and ICRC. Rumors and misinformation are common in epidemics, which means capacities to communicate with the public are critical for keeping social cohesion, trust in institutions, and compliance with public health messaging and measures. Now, it's your turn. Who are your emergency communications focal points and spokesperson? Do you have key messaging templates in place? Are there methods for risk communication and community engagement? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. Resource mobilization. Being able to access immediate life-saving resources in times of emergency highlights a need to develop systems and strategies to secure funding and in-kind donations from the public, government, private sector, and other actors at international, national, and local levels. Overall, resource mobilization needs to be integrated within emergency response coordination and planning. Some ways the national society can help ensure resources are available and used appropriately when needed include establishing of a national emergency fund. This can be especially important because funding mechanisms within the movement such as drafts or appeals kick in. Establishing a platform to access national and international donations within 48 hours of an emergency with a system to track and report to donors on its use. Fostering relationships and developing pre-disaster agreements with partners such as the government or private sector to expedite access to funding during emergencies. Now, it's your turn. What is your strategy for emergency fundraising and mobilization of resources in emergency? Do you have a system to track and report on donations? Pause the video here and consider how you would answer. After reviewing the Operations Support Area and its components, what are some practical actions you, the department, or national society can take to strengthen your preparedness and response mechanism? For more information related to the Operations Support, check out these resources. And to learn more about the Preparedness for Effective Response approach, go to our website or contact us directly at ns.preparedness@ifrc.org. Thank you.